This is chapter 44, and this is the last chapter in Skyhawk Children. I hope you enjoy it. I woke up early the next morning. I got up from my bed, and peered out of the window. A fog had swallowed us up in the night. I couldn't see a thing outside, just bright whiteness. The farmhouse was strangely quiet and still. I slipped on my jumper and jeans and padded into the kitchen. Mum was getting breakfast things ready, and Dad was sitting in a chair holding his head in his hands. "I can't party like I used to," he groaned. Mum winked at me and put a plate of sausages and hash browns in front of him. "Get that down, you," she said. Feet sounded on the yard outside, and Graham clumped in through the door. "Shh," whispered Mum. "Geneva and Mama Binta are still asleep." Graham sat down next to Dad. "You can't see the nose on your face in that fog." He reached over and grabbed a sausage from Dad's plate. "Can't let good food go to waste," he said, stuffing it in his mouth. "Here they are," said Mum. I turned to see Mama Binta helping Geneva through the door. Mum pulled out a chair with a soft cushion and helped Geneva sit down. Geneva was dressed in what looked like about 10 jumpers, a fleece, a pair of thick trousers, woolly walking socks, and an old blue bubble hat. "What do you think, Callum?" she said. "Am I ready for the mountains?" I laughed. "I think you'll make base camp on Everest in those." Mama Binta pulled her shawl around her shoulders and leaned against the warm cooking range. "You won't find me up any mountains," she shivered. "It's like living in a big freezer out there." "There's no point going to the lock until after lunch anyway," said Dad. "The fog might clear by then." "But Dad," I said, "it doesn't give us much time. Rob's mum and Dad are taking Geneva out this afternoon to the woolen mills, and anyway—" I was interrupted by a muffled engine arriving in the yard and headlights circled by fog. "Hamish is here." Hamish knocked on the door and walked into the kitchen. "Morning all," he grinned. He turned to Geneva and me. "Are you ready to go and take a look at the Airy?" We both nodded. "Come on then, lass," said Hamish. He held out his hands to her. "Let's get you into the Land Rover." "But I haven't had breakfast," Mum said. "We'll have it later," I called. "I've got to get something." I rushed up to my room to look for my binoculars. I hadn't used them since last year. I grabbed them from the top of the wardrobe and went back down to the kitchen. "You won't see much with those," said Dad as I went out the door. The fog pressed against me, damp and heavy, as I crossed the yard. Geneva was already in the front seat. I opened the door and climbed in next to her, the crutches between us. The Land Rover rumbled into life, and Hamish drove out of the yard and up the field track towards the lock. Sheep loomed out of the mist and stared at us as we passed. Hamish tried switching his headlights on full beam, but the glare bounced back at us. The track swung around the curve of the hill and started to climb steeply upwards. "I think we've missed the track to the lock," I said. Hamish peered into the mist. "Are you sure?" I looked all around, but there was nothing but whiteness. No landmarks, nothing. "I think so," I said. "We shouldn't be climbing so steeply." The Land Rover side-slipped in the muddy track. "I can't turn around yet," Hamish muttered. "We'll go on. If I stop now, we might get stuck." He drove slowly on, bumping over the rocks and stones. Geneva put her hands out on the dashboard to steady herself. Below my window, the edge of the track tumbled away into swirling mist. "At least I can say I've been on the mountains," Geneva said, "even if I can't see them." "It's a bit brighter in front," said Hamish. The ground was flatter and covered by coarse grass. It was lighter and brighter all around. Colour had seeped into the world again. The outline of an orange sun pierced the mist above. Hamish edged the Land Rover on through the thinning whiteness and out into the bright sunshine and blue, blue sky. He turned the engine off and we sat in silence looking around. Hamish whistled softly. "Wow, you don't see something like this every day." The tops of the mountains pushed above the mist-filled valleys. They rose like islands above a sea of white cloud. "Please help me down," said Geneva. She was quiet, a slight frown on her face. "I want to walk," she said. Hamish helped her down from the Land Rover. I passed her the crutches, but she shook her head. "I must do this on my own." She spread her arms to steady herself, and slowly she took her first steps, one foot in front of the other. "You're walking," I shouted. "You're really walking." She stopped and turned to me and smiled the biggest smile. "Look, Callum," she said. "The marabout, he was right." Geneva stepped towards me through the mist-covered heather. The mist fell around her feet like waves. She was walking above the world, across an ocean of bright cloud. "I can see for miles and miles," she said. "The mountains, they never end." "Try these," I said. I tipped my binoculars out of their case. A small gold locket slithered out into my hand. It was Iona's locket. It lay open in my palm, Iona's face smiling out at me. And suddenly, it was as if Iona was with us there on the mountain. It was as if she had always been there. I curled my fingers around the locket and held it in my hand. My eyes burned hot with tears that wanted to come. "Here," I said. I put the locket in Geneva's palm. "My friend would have wanted you to have this." I turned away and closed my eyes tight, but the tears came anyway. I'd promised Iona that I would look after Iris. I'd tried my best. A lifetime ago, Iona and I had sat on this hillside watching Iris fly over the Lochlan Valley, and now I'd lost them both. I jumped when Geneva put her hand on my shoulder. "Kulanjango," she said. I turned to look at her. "Kulanjango," said Geneva again. "Look, Hallam, she's coming." I wiped my eyes and stared through the blurred tears. And there, above the sea of white cloud, flew a bird, its broad wings outstretched. It soared above us, its high call piercing the blue sky. An answering call came from the mist in the valley below. "Osprey," I whispered. It banked around and flew close above our heads. I could hear the rush of air through feather tips. I knew it was Iris, I just knew it. "She's back," I yelled, "she's back." I ran along the ground beneath her, my feet flying over the grass. I spread my arms wide like birds' wings and raced behind her in her shadow. She turned in flight and called again, "Kee, kee, kee." And in that one brief, amazing moment, her bright sunflower yellow eyes looked right into mine. That's it, Year 6. That's the end of Skyhawk. I hope you enjoyed it.